somebody's upline to that person, they can tap into that support system as well. So it's so important that we have the right mental attitude. So here's a little bit more how we can leverage our teamwork. Excuse me, refer interested people to the webinars, to email, video, sizzle calls. The sizzle calls, I want to call those testimony calls. We do have sizzle calls that you can access through our website. In the front, if you look at, there's a company call. That's our sizzle call. It's on there. You can check for the numbers there. You could refer people to the websites, conference calls, three-way calls. Very important. I remember when I first got started in this business, folks, we were so excited. We did one meeting, and in that meeting we signed up 3 people, and then those 3 people went home so excited. This is when we very first got started. Those people were just friends. Some were a couple of customers that bought some houses from me. I used to be in real estate and more in loans. And so it was a couple of clients, a couple of people. Our first presentation, or our first meeting, we stopped at a Radio Shack, bought a speakerphone, took it to an office where we were going to do the meeting, and went on a company phone call. And in that company phone call, we heard the speaker, Mr. Johnny Reed, doing a presentation, and I had about 8 or 9 people sitting around that speakerphone, and that was a presentation. At the end, I made the mistake of asking, does anybody have any questions? And then we went through about an hour session of questions and Q&A, but that's how we found our very first 3 people, and then from there, that night, they were excited. They were looking at who to talk to. And the next day, they started calling. And we were doing three-way calls. And then the big question was, when is your next meeting? So we didn't have any meetings scheduled. We had no meeting scheduled because we had just started. And there were no meetings in Southern California. There was nobody working this area. There was nobody here. And so the next meeting was at our house. Okay, well, the next meeting is tonight, 7 o'clock, and started bringing people in. And then when was the next meeting? The very next day. Guess where? At my house. And we kept going, but we had excitement. We had momentum. And that's the one thing that we can't teach you. That's the one thing that we can't duplicate. That's the one thing that we can't sell. We can't sell excitement. You have to be excited. If you're not excited, folks, then quit or join another company that you're excited about. But if you're not excited about your opportunity, if you're not excited about your products and services, if you're not excited about the people that you're working with, then you need to go find somewhere else, to do, because you're not going to do it here. And so that excitement, folks, is 90% of your business is going to be based on your raw passion and excitement about what you have. And so if you need to talk to other people that have been in the company, that have had success stories, and that's what you need to do. But the opportunity is there, folks. I'm telling you. My wife and I never had experience in network marketing. We were able to build an organization, that it took us 9 months to build, and has supported us for almost 5 years now. So we worked hard for 9 months, paid our dues, did what we needed to do, built the organization. That's just, from then on, from the first check that we've got, we've never had a week where we did not get paid a check. And so you need to understand how powerful that is, of working 9 months and living almost 5 years off of the effort of 9 months. Okay. Live meetings. Let me go back to that real quick. Live meetings. We are now in a situation, folks, where if you're a leader, you need to start a meeting in your area. You need to be that person that wants the responsibility, that wants to walk into a leadership role. You can't wait. You can't ask for permission. You have to take the bull by the horns and say, hey, Tuesday night's going to be my meeting, and I'm doing a meeting, in my house or at Denny's or at a restaurant or at IHOP, Starbucks, wherever. But you need to do that. And you need to establish that and have people come to that meeting. And if you want somebody to come out there and help you and give a presentation, then you need to also go upline and find somebody that's willing to do that for you. But I'm telling you, if your people don't know where to go and all they have is webinars, all they have is conference calls, that's great. But for some of the products and services that we have, they have to go somewhere where they could see it, touch it, feel it, smell it, experience it, and get a live demo of what's going on in our products, in the different products that we have. Now, I don't want to get too specific because this webinar is really not concentrating on a particular product line within the company. But, just for example, our grounding technology, our earthing technology, that's something visual. That's something that you need to connect with people. They need to see it. They need to look at how EMFs are affecting their bodies and cell phones and all these different things that are, they need to experience that, where it's irrefutable evidence visually that this stuff works so that they can get excited about it and then hear the testimonies of the people that are using it. Okay, so I think I've covered a little bit about using upline support. We understand that that's important. Now the R word. What is the R word? Well, the R word, folks, is recruiting. And, some people get scared. Some people become professional trainers. This is something that really, really, it's okay that, there's some people that like to train. But I believe that when you're training somebody, you should have the results. When you're training somebody, you should have the success behind you of what you're telling that person to do. And so if you're not recruiting people into the business, if you're not, then, what are you really teaching? And so how not to be the issue is, in order to recruit properly, without people shutting you down with those questions of, how long you've been in the business, how much money have you made, or how much money you've made so far, they're going to blow you out of the water immediately and are going to stop your chances of recruiting. So here's how it works. If you see this triangle here, and let me get my little highlighter tool here, you're going to find that, it's a very simple process. Here's an EOIR. And here's the prospect. And here's the expert. Now, the expert, folks, doesn't necessarily have to be there. The expert could be virtual. We could do webinar and, after webinar, one-on-one or in a group session. But the most important thing is that you have to edify the expert correctly. And in most cases, people blow that. In most cases, people are edifying the prospect to the expert, and that doesn't work. The prospect needs to know that the expert has experience and expertise in this business. And so that way, that prospect now has respect for the business experience of the person that's going to be doing the presentation. Now, if that is done properly, right? If that is done properly, then the prospect should be hanging on every word that expert's going to be talking. Now, here's the thing. The prospect's not going to listen to you. And the reason they're not going to listen to you is, one, if they're within your circle of influence, they already know you. They already know that you just started. They already know that you haven't made any money at it. And so they trust you enough to hear you, but they don't trust you enough to listen to you. And so the prospect then becomes completely engrossed in what the expert is telling them. If you edify correctly. Now, I do a whole training on edification. We're not going to get into that right now, but there's a whole training that I do on edification and how important that skill is. If you can master the skill of edification, the definition for edification is, well, I said I wouldn't get into the edification because once I get started, I'm not going to stop. So I won't get into that program, that training right now. But I will bring it. We'll have to do a whole, another session possibly next week on Friday. Do a whole training on edification, but I won't get into it right now. But if you can master that skill of edification, I'm telling you, folks, it'll make you a fortune. I'm not saying that theoretically. I'm using that in practice. I've done it consistently over 4.5 years. Now, I've given thousands upon thousands of presentations of the company. I've designed the presentation.